Okay, we're live.
All right, welcome back, everybody. House Energy and Digital Infrastructure. We are moving pretty quickly through a committee bill we developed that would relate to who and how folks get notified when we are moving from copper to fiber-based network. I am Representative Kathleen James. I'm from Manchester.
Scott Campbell from St. Johnsbury.
Richard Bailey, Lamoille 2.
Michael Southworth, Caledonia 2.
Christopher Howland, Rutland 4.
Territory, Washington 2.
Aaron Kleffner, Chittenden 13, Burlington.
Great. And joining us in the room,
Jonathan Wolf from Primer Piper on behalf of the smaller telcos. Kim Gates is on the screen.
great.
Theo Wellsback, VT Digger.
Danny Perry with the Craftsman Group.
Andrew Brewer with DRM, representing Fidium. Sarah's on the screen.
John Brabant, Vermont Clean Environment.
Great. All right. We are here today to get some feedback on our committee bill from Consolidated Communications, Fidium Fiber, and that bill is posted on our website. It is, I believe, let me just make sure, should be draft 1.2. Yeah, draft 1.2. So you, I assume, have a copy of that. We've already done a committee walkthrough of the language, and we're basically just here to get your thoughts and feedbacks today on what you think of the bill.
Yeah, so one, I'll start by apologizing. I had written testimony last night on a previous version of the bill and did not get the current version till this morning, but I have had a chance to review it, albeit relatively quickly. Obviously, the previous bill had reference to outdated legislation, and so that was my big concern. With respect to this bill, I mean, you heard me last time I was here. My position is unchanged. This is a bill that is unnecessary. Fidium Fiber provides more notice than is required in this bill. This bill seeks to link consumer protections of the Department of Public Service for broadband service, which they don't even regulate. It just has substantial issues. Fidium provides, like I said, plenty of notice. It works with its consumers. It asks us in this bill to provide tech support for devices. In many cases, the consumer actually needs to work with the provider of the device to understand what it needs. Fidium can certainly work with it to make sure it works when it's connected, but every single device has the ability to work on fiber. The consumer just needs to understand that with whatever the particular device is, because it can be an alarm, it can be security, it can be life alert. Fidium also has not had an issue. This seems like a solution in search of a problem. We have had no issues with consumers. We have made the transition on thousands. It didn't even come to the attention of this committee until thousands had already been converted with no issues. We've received one comment to consumers and in all of our filing, and that consumer asked that we just make sure that they could put their fiber in their conduit, make sure we waited till the ground froze before transitioning them so they could put their fiber in their conduit. We did that. We agreed to obviously wait until they can get the fiber in their conduit, which is frozen. There was a news story about a woman with a life alert device. We reached out personally to see what we could do to help with that. And turns out she didn't have one until this week. And when she got it this week, we went and made sure it was installed and working. So, I really question the need for any of this. And I do believe it is completely preempted by federal law. This is an area where the FCC does regulate and has chosen to regulate. And so it is not appropriate for the states to create their own legislation.
Okay, so thanks for that feedback. So I'm sure we have some questions. So Rep. Sibilia?
Yeah, just one, Sarah. So you are, I believe in your testimony, you're continually referencing Fidium, and the applications to the FCC have been from Consolidated. Is that correct?
The copper product that is being retired is Consolidated Communications copper product. The fiber product that we're transitioning to is a Fidium fiber product. Yes.
Okay. And how do you count consumer complaints or input?
We count them through any things that have been filed with the commission or any, feedback we've gotten. We have a consumer complaint channel through the company.
With the FCC commission, you mean?
Yeah, filed with the FCC or, with us through our escalation channels. We get lots of questions, certainly, and, we respond to them, but we have not had anyone that has had concerns with the transition once their questions are answered.
And so, just to make sure that I understand, it's your understanding that that Vermont is preempted from regulating around public notice.
Yes.
That's not my understanding, or what we're heard from Legislative Council. And I guess the last, I guess I'll just offer a comment to the committee. Just a reminder that we are taking this issue up because we've had a lot of Vermonters who have had a lot of complaints and service issues during these transitions. And a number of them were brought to Consolidated's attention, as well as the department, during an open public comment period in which we specifically asked when this might be retired, and did not receive information. The notice that was sent to the state, literally to the governor and to the PUC, in a 130-page application, seems like it's not actually hitting the mark. And so I think this is pretty modest notification, public notice legislation that we're asking for. So thank you. That's all I have to say, Madam Chair.
Okay, other questions from the committee? So I just want to make sure I am clear on your feedback. So I'm just looking at the draft bill, draft 1.2, and we have obviously our findings, laying out why we think this notification matters. And then the notification section that starts on page 3. So this bill contemplates asking, Consolidated to provide written notice to the commissioner and to all affected customers at 3 kind of trigger points. So 90 days, 60 days, and 30 days prior to the transition. And that then the commissioner would weigh in on the form and manner by which Consolidated would need to notify, and then about these different things. So the date of the transition, the details of the changes, instructions for customers to transition. And it's your position that this is we're asking too much? That's too.
Yeah, so we notify customers 4 months in advance. You heard me last time say that we start longer than this, and we notify them twice a month via mailing notices, and in between via email and SMS. So we do significantly more than this already. So we have no issue with notifying customers. We do a lot more than this. And with respect to that notice, we have to put the notice in when we make the filing with the FCC. There is no ability to send it to the commissioner and then take feedback and change it. The FCC expects that the notice that we put in is the notice that was received.
And we had talked a little bit about how that notice is received by the commission, right? Whether it's sent by email or sent as a hard copy packet, and how obvious the notification is, whether it's tucked at the back of the packet or a cover letter, and whether you might also notify the E911 board. And was there someone else that we talked about?
Department.
Oh, yeah, the department, right. And is that problematic for you?
I mean, we have agreed with the department that we will notify them. And the one we just did, we sent the department the notice. We sent them the Vermont specific notice. I want to say it was in the 30-page range. It was very clear, had, well, you know, all the very specific information in it. We sent that to both the department and the E911 board, and we have agreed through MOU, as I testified last time, that we'll continue to do that.
Is the MOU done?
The MOU has a draft. The MOU is subject. It will not be completed. Well, let's start at the beginning. I owe the department red lines to that. I got it last night. I have not had a chance to turn that. The MOU is subject to this legislation, though. If this legislation goes into effect, it will preempt, if you will. That's probably not the right word, but it will be what we will do. Not, you know, we will not do the MOU.
Yeah.
Consolidated will fight, you know, what it thinks it has to fight on this legislation.
Yeah, I think because we had talked about the MOU process, you know, during our previous meeting.
Yep.
And I think the concern or the caution I had maybe with an MOU is that that doesn't outlast this moment in time, perhaps, right? So down the road, an MOU captures a moment in time, and that statutory changes, you know, lock something more in stone, or make it something that outlives turnover in personnel at your company or this particular agreement. So I think that's where we were going with that, with feeling like the willingness to engage in an MOU process was great for now, but that it might not be in effect next time around. So I think that's where we were heading. Rep. Campbell?
Sure, thank you. So I guess I'm wondering if you could be a little more specific about the issues that Fidium has with this bill, and just looking at, as the chair mentioned, at the requirements of notice. It seems like, as you say, Fidium provides plenty of notice now. So I'm looking on page 3 under, well, let's see, line 11 says, notice shall be given to all affected customers at least 90 days, 60 days, and 30 days prior. Is that a problem? I mean, that's something that Fidium does already, even exceeds that requirement, right?
Yes.
So is there any problem with that?
I mean, we already do it.
You already do it.
Yeah, and it's required. I mean, notice is required by the FCC, by the current process
Right.
that exists.
Right. Anyway, well, so I guess I don't see that. Is there a problem with that provision?
No, we provide notice today.
Okay, and then underneath that, there's several 5 or 6, let's see, 8 items underneath that. The date of the transition, obviously, that is something that you include in your notice. Details of service changes, including a potential impact to a customer's current telephone and broadband service. I'm sure that's part of your notice also, is it not?
So we certainly tell them that they will get higher speeds, they will get symmetrical broadband, they will get a voice over internet protocol voice
Right.
service. But I don't know. My problem with that is I don't know what that means. Like my problem with this is that it's vague, and that you can, at any point, somebody could interpret this to our notice isn't sufficient. And currently we file a notice that the FCC has seen, the FCC has weighed in on, and the FCC has approved. I don't like a separate regulation that may say something different, and then we run into issues where the FCC has already approved this notice. You want something else, and the FCC does not deem acceptable the notice that we provided. That's the problem with having 2 different regulators speak on the same issue.
Okay. All right, I see. I think one of my colleagues has a question as well. Reject the question.
Yeah, Sarah, I know that I have asked you for a copy of the notice, which I don't believe you provided. Perhaps it's in my email. Have you provided a copy of the notice to the committee? I don't know that we've asked you for that.
I don't know that I specifically have the FCC notice that I sent links to has the customer notice. It has the customer specific information blanked out, but it's the exact notice that is provided. Yes.
Okay. Yes.
Do we have, the FCC requirements for notice somewhere? Is that something that we've received?
I don't know.
I think Sarah has provided it to us.
Yeah.
It's in the regulations. I can, if you know, I can resend that if somebody wants, but yeah.
Thank you. Are the proposed notice periods less prescriptive or more prescriptive than the federal?
Probably a little bit more prescriptive in that it's 30, 60, 90. You have to provide notice under the federal periods prior to the submission, and then the comment period can be you make the submission with the FCC. It's not exactly clear when they will post it. They have to post it for at least 30 days. And so in some senses, that can be a longer or shorter period than that, depending on how long it takes them to post it in the Federal Register. So it's not so specific on the days, but this is more prescriptive, I would say.
And how many notices are you required to send under the FCC rules?
I would want to double check. I believe it is only one, but I would want to double check that. I'm not intentionally misleading. That's what I think it is, but I would want to double check.
Would you be able to follow up with that information?
Of
for me?
of course, yes, yeah, but you know, we want our customers to transition. We want them to move to fiber. They have to place an order. We want that to go smooth. So we give them 8 notifications, written notifications and email notifications in between. That totals 16 notifications because we want this to happen. And so we walked the department through one customer. We took one customer to show the department how much notice we give. In addition to the 8 notices and then the emails in between, we made 15 calls to the customer. So, you know, we work very hard to make sure the customers understand what's happening and that we reach them.
So are folks with just phone service given the same amount of notification?
They will be. We have not started the transition with voice only customers as I described last time. We're only doing customers with DSL or DSL and voice bundled.
So you haven't come up with any sort of a package for voice only, correct?
No, we will do the same notification. We're waiting on our product being all ready to go and mirroring our tariff product today. But yes, it will follow the same lines for notification.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Madam Chair, I would just ask if we can have Alex check because I'm not seeing anything under Sarah Davis on our.
I think,
Yeah, I was just.
I think she said that, Sarah, did you say you'll provide written testimony, that you had written testimony ready, but you're working off an outdated draft and
Yes.
you're
Yes.
just submitting written testimony based on draft 1.2?
Yes.
Great. Thank you.
And could you include a link to the FCC notification reports?
Yes.
Thank you.
And the notice. That's what I
And the
meant.
notice.
That I'm not finding out.
Yeah, no, I didn't send that to the committee, Laura. I sent that to you when you were asking back before. I had sent you a link to the notice and said that the notice was in our FCC filing.
Sorry if I was not clear.
No.
I asked previously about you sending committee.
Yeah.
Okay. So, you'll send to the committee.
Yes.
Great.
It'll probably come from Mr. Brewer because he's better at doing that than me. So I'll send it to him to get to you.
Okay, that sounds good.
Just to make sure I get all the right people on there.
I made the note.
All right. Do we have additional questions for Sarah?
How long do you feel the MOU process is going to take? Are we going to be able to see that before a couple of weeks time frame or not?
Yeah, like I said, I believe Hunter sent it over to me yesterday afternoon or yesterday evening. I'm traveling, unfortunately, I'm in California. But I intend to look at that and get it turned right around to him. We've spoken, we have an agreement in principle and what we're thinking on ideas. We just had to put the language around it. So I don't have any reason to believe that would take more than a couple of weeks.
Thank you.
You're
Okay.
Um, Sarah, if you don't mind, since we have a few minutes, I thought I would just go through the other items that are included in the drafts, notification,
Yeah.
requirements, and just see if there's anything that's not welcoming in the FCC requirements or anything you have an issue with. So, I've gotten to item 2, details of service changes, including any potential impacts to a customer's current telephone and broadband service. Item 3 is instructions for customers on how to transition their service to VoIP service or alternative services, including information and technical support for customers needing to continue their home monitoring equipment, such as security system, medical equipment, or other equipment that relies upon telephone service to function properly. Is that something that's included in FCC?
We certainly tell them how to transition to the VoIP service. They have to contact us, that we will have to have a technician come out and place the ONT, and change the equipment. We certainly do that. We don't have technical support for the monitoring equipment, security system, medical equipment, etc. We don't support that equipment. That equipment does work on fiber service, but we don't have, everybody's equipment is different. Everything everyone has is different.
Right.
They should really be contacting the equipment manufacturer. I would worry about us doing that because it's not our equipment. We don't support that equipment.
Okay.
We had talked about with the department a general notification about, your equipment may be impacted. Make sure you talk to the technician about the equipment, and make sure it's functioning. Just sort of more of a blanket statement, but the specifics on each device it wouldn't make sense for us to do that. We're not the equipment manufacturers.
That makes sense. And that's something that Fidium does. It's not necessarily required by FCC. Is that right?
That's right.
Yeah. And item 4 is disclosure. Do you want to jump in there?
Just to confirm, so it's not the providing information that you're concerned about, it's the technical support.
Yeah. And like, if by providing information, you mean a general blanket statement that says this change may impact your devices, please make sure you check into that. We have no issue with that, right? We're not trying to hide the ball here. If we were expected to go further and somehow explain each device or something specific about each device, I would be uncomfortable doing that. I would not think that was an appropriate role for us.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Item 4 is disclosures about the carrier's obligation to provide regulated landline voice service to all residential customers in its service territory, including its obligation to provide a calling plan at the same price as offered prior to the transition, unless a customer voluntarily chooses to make service changes. So that's kind of a long way of saying, basically, the new service will be the same price as the old service, but that's what it does now.
Yeah. When we do the voice only offering, that's what it will say, because that's what it will be. Right now, the VoIP service is significantly cheaper and comes with unlimited, right? Like VoIP is preferable to many consumers because 1, it's significantly cheaper, and 2, all long distance in the United States is included. Local service is significantly more expensive and doesn't include that.
Right.
So most consumers actually prefer it. But yes, when we have the voice only product, we will indicate that we have to do it at the same price, which is significantly more expensive.
That's already required by existing tariffs, right?
Right. Yeah.
So again, that's something Fidium does, but not necessarily required by FCC, right?
That's right.
And item 5 is information on availability of backup power options and battery backup devices to ensure each customer can maintain service continuity during a power outage, including clear information on the availability, cost, and installation procedures for battery backup systems. Is that required by FCC?
No.
No?
All those requirements sunset in August last year.
That's right. I remember hearing about that now.
And so we make,
Right.
we provide information and make available to consumers what they have for options for battery. We don't provide it. We just, there's lots of places. It's a competitive market. They can order batteries from all sorts of places and then send notifications that they should test their batteries, you know, just like anything. They don't last forever.
So right now, there's no requirement that that information be provided.
There is not.
And just three more here. 6, a brief summary and link to consumer protection rules in at the PUC. And that's
We don't provide that, and we wouldn't expect to provide it. I mean, a lot of these customers are broadband customers. Those consumer protection rules don't apply to broadband.
and 7 is contact information for carrier, customer support, and for Division of Consumer Affairs and Public Information within the Department of Public Service. Do you provide that?
No, we do not.
And the last one is any other disclosures deemed necessary and appropriate by the Commissioner of Public Service and consistent with the purpose of this section. Obviously, that's just a catch-all.
Right.
Yeah.
Scary and vague because we don't know what that means.
All right. Well, thank you. That clarifies things for me. Appreciate it.
No problem.
So just to follow up question, because I really want to make sure I understand your objections. It sounds like a lot of this you believe you already do or you exceed.
Mhm.
And then the additional things that we're asking you to put in the notification don't feel that onerous to me. I guess I'm trying to understand the vigorous pushback.
Yeah, we have a notification that we sent to consumers. We had one notification, the FCC came back and weighed in on it and said, we like it a little different. We said, fine, we made it different. We have something that works that makes the FCC happy. And now we're supposed to add a bunch of things into it, some of which is vague, some of which is not appropriate for us because we don't support the devices. And so, yes, we're concerned that that's going to derail the whole process that has been working to date.
Derail the process in the sense that you think the FCC would not support the expanded notification that you're providing or the additional info in the packet or?
Yeah, I wouldn't know. I mean, we worked on getting something they approve. It works today and creating, you know, new requirements that are some back and forth with the department, or they can add other things, you know, their catch-all at the end basically says the department could decide other things are required. It's just, we never know if we're compliant with the state of Vermont and this sort of vague requirements here. So
is the department, do you feel confident that the department is in tune with with FCC regulations? Because the kind of the operating phrase here is that this notification be provided in a form and manner that the department prescribes. So there's a role for the department here in saying, hey, we're going to ask you to make sure customers know this, and that, and here's how we think you should do it. Do you not think the department would be sensitive to what the FCC might strike down? Or I'm
think,
just trying to get to the
yeah, I think the department and our conversations currently and what we're working on are great. And I have a ton of confidence, but I don't know what happens when people change there or there's someone new, or I guess mine is the same as yours, right? You're saying the MOU may change. I'm saying, you know, we're having great conversations. We'll get to an MOU with the department. I feel confident in that. I don't know what this statute or how somebody decides to perceive this statute or apply to us in the future. That is my concern.
Mm-hmm. Rep. Sebelius?
Madam Chair, actually, I guess this question is, I think for you. We have heard repeatedly that we are preempted on consumer protection. And I believe that that's incorrect, unless Congress has specifically preempted us on consumer protection. And I believe that Vermont has some experience, as does our ledge council, on this topic. So I'd like to make sure that we do hear from our attorney, her opinion on whether or not we are in fact preempted on consumer protection. I don't know if you want to now, but I want to make sure before we close this bit that we make sure we've heard all the way around on this and not just the company's assertion.
Rep. Southworth?
I just want to back up. I think I heard you state that broadband is not regulated. And if
The
that's,
Department of Public Service.
okay,
Or based on what? I'm sorry.
so what is,
Regulated, not regulated.
Thank you.
I guess we go back to landlines. And I'm trying to make the connection between the VoIP and a regular old landline. Your company's choosing to discontinue those landlines. So trying to get at this, the protections afforded to them are now null and void. And if that's the case, how can that be? Because your company has made that choice to go to the VoIP where they had the protections on the copper.
I did not say VoIP. I said internet. DSL service is not regulated by the Department of Public Service. They regulate voice service. And as an ILEC and a provider of last resort in the state of Vermont, we are regulated and required to offer a voice-only product at a rate prescribed by tariffs. I've been clear about that. So we absolutely have to do that. That is not broadband internet access service, which is not regulated by the state. There are tons of broadband providers in the state that you don't have in here, because they're not regulated by the department. That's the difference.
Make myself my question. I'm just,
Yeah.
So there are protections built into the landline. Are the same
Yeah.
protections for the VoIP? And I'm talking specifically voice. I'm not trying to get into broadband. Right now, I'm concerned about the voice product.
Yes. So we are required to offer a regulated voice product. When we make the switch from copper, using a copper line to provide that product, to using a fiber line to provide that product, it will still be regulated. Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
But it's just the voice. If you read your piece of legislation, you talk about VoIP and you talk about broadband separately, and it's the broadband that is not regulated.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you. So that prompts a question from me. If a customer takes the broadband service and VoIP, then is the VoIP part of broadband service, and therefore not regulated by the state? Is that correct?
No, VoIP is regulated.
It's all regardless of whether you have it together with broadband or not.
Yes, this issue's gone to the Supreme Court in Vermont. It's a little more complicated than that, but in general, VoIP is regulated, and our requirement as an incumbent local exchange carrier to offer a standalone voice product is unchanged in the state, regardless of the technology we use to provide that product.
But for customers who aren't on just standalone voice, if they're on broadband, then the VoIP part of it is still regulated by the state. Yeah.
They would say yes, absolutely.
Thank you, Ed, for the clarification.
Sarah, I have another question. I think you maybe gave us a clue as to a bit more of your concern. So the bill is about telephone service, which you've helped us understand will continue to be regulated. And you've highlighted that your concern is around broadband, that this also seeks to regulate.
Yeah.
And so I think the only mention of broadband that is in this bill is Under section 1, D2, related to the details of service changes, including any potential impacts to a customer's current telephone and broadband service. So if we
Yes.
were to strike and broadband service, do we then have your agreement that we have the right to do this, to protect our consumers in this way?
You have the right to do whatever you want. I believe that you regulating the notice that is required from a copper to fiber transition is preempted by the FCC and federal law because they chose to regulate in that area.
Okay, so just not to be argumentative, I'll just ask you this one more time. Is it specifically that iteration of and broadband service that's
It's
problematic?
no,
And this is
that
actually.
that is clearly problematic. Consumer protection clearly does not relate to that. But, to say you're saying I'm preempted in consumer protection, you're trying to twist my words, which is fine. I mean, whatever you'd like. But what I'm saying is that this bill seeks to regulate a copper to fiber transition. Excuse me? Excuse me? Wow.
No
This
one's
seeks
saying-
to, no, oh no, she's making gestures at me. It's fine. It's fine.
I'm not making
I know how I'm
You guys-
always treated.
So we-
I encourage you
no.
to watch the video on that. But anyway, the copper to fiber transition is specifically an area in which the FCC has regulated and created regulations. Obviously, there are consumer protection rules that I've never challenged that the department has. It's that saying that this specific notice as part of this process needs to have all these other things in an area regulated by the FCC is what I believe is preempted.
Our intent is not to treat you with disrespect, so.
Yep.
Um,
I know that for most of you, absolutely.
okay, why don't we just take a beat here? So I was gonna ask you, to clarify, what I wanted you to clarify, your concerns about federal preemption when our alleged counsel was in the room, and our alleged counsel is in the room now. So, Maria, I never like to put people on the spot, but I will just flag that it'll be important for us to understand. I know that we talked about federal preemption before you drafted the language, so we could ask you to chime in now, or later we could return to this because we will want to get your thoughts about whether you think the language is federally preempted or whether we're moving into an area of consumer protection that we're okay to go into.
I'm happy to do whatever you prefer. We could chat
Great.
about it now, or
Sure,
would you, do you want,
If you
whatever's
don't mind, it'd be
helpful.
great. We're all here. Can you,
you want me to sit up here or just
if you don't mind, that'd be great for the record.
for the record? Maria Royal, Legislative Counsel. So I think I'm hearing two different things. I think, so the state definitely has consumer protection authority and regulatory authority over voice service, whether it's over a copper network or a fiber network. With respect to the incumbent local exchange carriers, right? They're regulated monopolies still in Vermont. As you know, under federal law, under the Communications Act, it's a dual system of regulation. There's federal and state regulation. And under the Communications Act, there's a carve out that specifically says that states, the exercise of their police powers in the interest of protecting the public, consumer welfare is still deferred to, unless there's a specific prevention, but there are preemption. I'm not aware of one. In terms of the notice requirement, with respect to a transition, I would love to hear more. I would love to know more about exactly what's required. My understanding, at least initially, was one of the purposes of that notice had to do with the other carriers that connect to the network more than the consumer. So, and if there are specific requirements related to what needs to be provided to consumers, I would love to know that. Again, my understanding is that wasn't in the federal law. So the question on preemption, if there isn't a specific prevention, is always if what the state is doing, if it's within their police powers, does it otherwise conflict with or interfere with a carrier meeting its federal obligations? So if there's actually, you can't do both. So the way I interpret this, however you decide to proceed, that this supplements, I don't necessarily see the conflict. You can still comply with the federal law. So, maybe I just need to hear a little bit more because I haven't really heard specifics about the preemption.
Okay. Sarah, when you provide your written testimony, would it be possible for you to be clear about your concerns about federal preemption, and then we'll have something to bounce off?
I can get our federal attorney to draft something up. It may take a couple of days.
Would that be helpful, Maria?
That'd be great. Yeah.
Great.
That'd be super.
Thank you. All right. So Maria, thank you for being here. We do have other, we weren't supposed to hear from Kim until 11, but she is in the virtual room. Kim, would you want to just go ahead? And thank you, Sarah, for being here.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to provide feedback.
Okay, I'm working on unmuting here.
Well, and if you're not,
No, I'm as ready as I'm going to be.
okay. So we're getting some feedback on draft 1.2, which was dated January 22nd.
Okay. I'll just begin. For the record, my name is Kimberly Gates and I'm with Franklin Telephone Company. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay. So now I have scribble notes everywhere. So I'm with Franklin Telephone Company, and it was started by my great-grandfather in the 1890s. And I do a little bit of everything at Franklin Telephone. There, sorry. And I mean everything. So I flag, I dig ditches, I run cable, set poles, I do customer installs, customer service, tech support, engineering, CO tech, accounting, and legislative and regulatory. So I do a little bit of everything. Got my finger in everything. So that's sort of my role at the company. I can give you full aspects to different parts of it. Franklin started providing fiber to the home in 2014. I believe we had less than a dozen customers at that time on fiber. At the end, in 2025, we now have fiber service down every road in our service territory. And our goal for this year is to convert everybody to fiber by 2026. Mother Nature always interferes with my plans, so we'll see how that goes. We are a member of the Telephone Association of Vermont, and all the companies are also en route to providing fiber to the home to all their customers. So those companies are Franklin, Ludlow Telephone, Northfield, and Perkinsville, which are part of TDS, Shoreham Telephone Company, which is GoNet Speed, Topsom Telephone Company, VTEL, which has been fiber only for, I believe it's over 10 years. I don't know the exact time, and Waitsfield Champlain Valley Telecom. So those are part of the TAV. We are all eligible telecommunications carriers. So we have requirements we're required to provide for this status. One of them is to have a standalone voice option. So even with customers on fiber, they can have just voice service. They don't have to have broadband and voice. It can be just voice only. And we give customers information about the battery backup. This document, and now I've sort of spun my head around in a circle from this morning's testimony. I don't really feel like this legislation is necessary. I've been in the industry for 40 years, and one of the things my father drilled into me was the Public Service Board. They set the rules, and the department was Consumer Affairs. And I still have that, if there's a consumer issue, that's what the Department of Public Service is there to address it and work with the consumer and the companies to deal with issues. I'm confused. I think I'm just generally confused today, but I'm confused with this bill. There's language in there with VoIP and voice service that get thrown all around that's confusing. So I have copper customers that technically are a VoIP service. It's all on how the call is actually translated. There's TDM, there's SIP, it's an IP protocol. It's on an internal private network. So you can have VoIP, used to be like a Magic Jack or whatever, which was a VoIP that was pure internet. And you can have an internal VoIP system, which fiber is on a SIP based protocol. So I think what we lose sight of, and so when a customer converts to fiber, they get, this is a little ONT that gets mounted at the customer's house. It needs a power cord. Fiber goes in there. Ethernet plugs in the other one, and then your phone services would plug in here. So I think what this bill is trying to do is make sure the customer knows they need backup power for this to work. And we give notice to customers. We have it on our websites. We tell customers before we convert. The part that people also forget is customers can have a battery backup on this, but if they're using a cordless phone or they're using alert systems that plug into electrical power, those will not work because there's not power on those units. So, and I just want to clarify a little bit, just to bring us back down. So the battery backup will work for this, but even if they're using their cell phone over the modem's not plugged into this. So, sorry for the little demonstration, but, so I just wanted to reiterate, we're all going down, sorry, live office here. We're all going down the path of getting customers on fiber. It's a more robust system and network. And the concerns for battery, I think we're addressing them. We're giving customers notice, and we have the department as customers can go to the department and we can work through issues with them. I think, and going through this legislation, the bigger concern for me is not this bill. It's my concern for my consumers is the effect that's going to happen when the tax changes to the telecom companies come into effect next year. Those are going to be much more powerful than this battery unit.
Kim, thanks for joining us this morning. So this bill is around when we transition from copper-based to fiber-based telephone service. So it's our understanding that you have to petition the FCC to do that. Is that also your understanding?
You have to petition and I'll have to circle back with the lawyer, but my understanding is I have to petition them if I'm doing away with service and not providing if I have to petition them if the change is resulting in reduction or impairment of service. That's my understanding of it. And I'm not giving them a reduction in service.
So you have not petitioned the FCC to transit?
I've not petitioned the FCC, and I don't plan to petition the FCC.
Interesting. So this has come about because of petition to the FCC and the notice that was required. with that? Do you understand what the difference might be in the two cases?
You know, I overlash my fiber to the copper's gonna be there. Realistically, you get a better service off the fiber. But I'm not it's a fine line, but
And so when, like, what would be the difference if you were to kind of cross that line?
well, I'd have to go to the FCC and I don't plan to do that.
And what would that allow you to do?
I don't know the answer to that.
So now I'm a little bit confused. I see Thompson is here, so hopefully he can shed some light. Nope, he's shaking his head no, on the difference between the two transitions, and why one would go to the FCC and another would not. Does our attorney?
She's looking into it right now.
We're doing some research.
Expenditure.
Sure. You know, it's interesting because there's a theme in all the testimony we've been taking in recent weeks across a bunch of issues about the public's ability to engage or be notified in processes that may work really great 80 to 90% of the time, and then when they fail, we hear about it. And you hear about it. We all hear about it. And so, you know, our intent often is to try to wade into those areas where the system is letting folks down. But I understand the balance we're trying to make when, you know, maybe it's something that works great almost all the time, and then it doesn't. I'm really curious to know what the cow thinks about this. Just curious if the flying cow has any comments. Or
Yeah, the cow's pretty subdued and needs a good dusting, but
okay. Yeah, Brett Bailey.
Could you go over your demonstration again over, I was a little confused about the lifeline not working when you had the control box there.
okay. So the requirements for battery backup when we give customers notice is that this box won't work unless it's plugged in to an electrical outlet.
Right.
Okay, so if they do a battery backup from us, they can buy a battery backup from us, or they can get it from Amazon or wherever. Just what's plugged into it will work for battery backup. But if they don't plug in their, you know, lifeline machine or their modem to battery backup, they don't work. Everything would need to be backed up. So and you know, we have customers that you know, we have areas that have a few power outages, and for the most part those customers all have generators. So then everything works that's on the generator and stuff. But if, you know, if there's not power or backup power to something, it's not going to work. So this is just one piece for the backup power.
Okay, thank you.
Folks have any more questions for Kim? Kim, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate your time.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, you bet. Right on time. Alrighty. For the record,
Hunter Thompson, Director of Telecommunications for the Public Service Department. Yes, that all didn't get on my papers now. It's my understanding that the committee asked me to come and provide comments on the committee bill 260726.
draft 1.2.
Draft 1.2, that's the one I read.
Great.
Also, I think Mr. Porter had been asked to testify, but just kind of so everybody knows, carrying the department's position with me today. So Mr. Porter and I talked about this at length. So
Great.
his opinions are incorporated into my notes as well. So as mentioned, we're working on an MOU with Fidium around notification and customer interactions. At install time as it applies to battery backup and auxiliary devices, we drafted that MOU, and as Sarah mentioned in her testimony, I sent it yesterday afternoon. She is on the road. I'm not surprised she hasn't had a chance to read it and get back to me. This is what we're trying to achieve. We understand you want to move, or we understand what you're trying to achieve, and we want to move forward in parallel with the understanding that this is the department's thoughts on the bill. So, page 3, section D3 of the bill. I'm assuming everybody has read it. I was confused on the section which said instructions for customers on how to transition their service to voice over IP service or alternate services. The alternate services raised my eyebrows. Is this asking the service provider to provide information on how to switch to a different provider or some other mechanism?
I'm sorry, where, I thought I knew where you were, now I don't. Where?
I'm on page 3 of 6 at the bottom, number 3.
Oh, I see.
Instruction.
Okay. Oh, okay. So say again, sorry, I'm there now.
So the alternate services piece, instructions for customers on how to transition their service to VoIP service or alternate services. I didn't know if does that mean that a service provider is asked to provide information on how to transition away from their service? Is that what the alternate service providers means? These are notes I made on the bill. The other part was including information on technical support for customers seeking to continue home monitoring equipment, such as security systems, medical devices, or other equipment. So I think I understand the ask here, but I think each individual service provider is best suited to answer those questions about their individual service. For instance, asking a telecommunications company to provide technical support for a life alert system seems misplaced.
So the technical support is a specific concern.
Yes, yeah. On page 4, right at the top, number 4, disclosures about the carrier's obligation to provide regulated landline voice service to all residential customers. I just flagged that it mentioned the price point, and it was mentioned before, but so far VoIP service has proven to be substantially cheaper than regulated telephone service. I assume a big portion of that is because of the technology that is being delivered over. Next piece, the next one down, number 5. Information on the availability of backup power options and battery backup devices to ensure each customer can maintain service continuity. Kim got to go first, so she stole my thunder there, but I'd like to flag a similar concern is that it's not an issue, but it bears noticing that in the event of a power outage, only a device that's directly wired to the ONT would continue to work. If you have a cordless phone and the power goes out, your phone won't work. If you have a life alert device that has a base station, that won't work. So again, I understand the aim, but I think it needs maybe expansion or more information around the battery backup, right? Because it implies simply having a battery backup in the ONT will enable all the telecom devices to work in your house, and that's not the case. I think last week, to be honest, sometimes it put us together. Someone asked about average power outages. So I talked with the director of engineering and got that report. In 2024, the average outage for all the power companies was 3.78 hours. That's for everybody across the state. The higher end times that skewed that average up was some of the smaller municipal power companies, and even those were at 7.02, 6.93, and 6.75. So they're all under the 8-hour threshold. Those are the two thresholds that seem to be commonly mentioned when battery backups are mentioned, is 8 hours and 24 hours. So just so you know that we did look at the data and it seemed to be under the 8-hour threshold. Next was section E, VoIP service provider reporting beginning on or before November 1st, 2026. And annually thereafter, each VoIP service provider shall file a report with the department. I think I understand the question here, but I don't think that this will give an accurate view into the people who have opted to keep service during the power outage. And I think that speaks a bit to what Kim said, is that this, to draw a conclusion from people who opt for battery backup ignores the people who have whole house generators, power walls, or some other non-direct purchase battery backup solution. And I will admit that I was unaware that direct purchase was no longer an option after the sunset of last September 1st. The last time I checked, it looked like it was still an option on the website. So I was a little caught off guard for that. Just to provide some empirical evidence. As an example, I have a friend in Washington Electric Territory who has one of those like battery backup generators, basically a big plug-in battery that you then unplug and plug in. He uses that for a sump pump when the power goes out because he thinks that's more than a phone call. And if he needed to, he could then move it down to the basement and plug in the whole. So just that reporting section, I don't think provides enough granularity.
What? Sorry.
Enough granularity to get it what the report's desired outcome is.
Do you support does it seem like it could be a useful report? Is it information you would want to see, or is it?
I think the information, it's not unuseful information, it's useful, but I don't know how we would get there, right? I'll get to that in a second.
Okay.
So on page 5, section G, department monitoring, in addition to reviewing annual reports required under the subsection E of this section, the Commissioner of Public Service shall review quarterly the outage reports submitted to 911. So I reached out to Barb to get these 911 reports about access to these reports. I'm not sure what they look like for the power outages, so I'm not sure the lift that is needed to crunch the data to have an informed opinion on a particular section. But for the originating carrier outage reports, the cause is often not reported. In all instances that I've seen, I looked at a couple this morning. One of them from January 23rd. I guess they're both from January 23rd. One of them listed the cause as explicitly power outage, and the other just reported service outage. So those originating carrier reports that go into 911 don't always report the cause of the outage in a way that can then be bubbled up to do what this section is asking. For the record, part of the commercial mobile radio service, cell service, is available. I think that one is nearly impossible to glean from the outage report. To go back to my previous example, the one that reported power outage as a cause reported the location as current, and the one that reported service outage reported the location as Berkshire. So even though there's a total number of outages or people without service reported in those carrier outage reports, the actual location is not granular enough to determine if they have cell service. Again, like if someone reported Middlesex as the outage location, I would not be able to confidently say whether or not commercial mobile radio service was available at the locations impacted by that outage without knowing the actual street addresses, because service in part of Middlesex is great if you're going up 89. If you're on my side of Middlesex and service is not so good. So getting to the actual what the report is actually asking for from those two pieces of data seems like an ask that we couldn't quite fulfill. Page 6, section I, whether the commission, which I'll include in the commissioner's annual report and the general assembly recommendations, and then, excuse me, whether the state should establish a program designed to provide financial assistance to low-income customers for costs associated with the purchase and installation of battery backups. I will unilaterally say I think that program would be great and it's a good idea, and I don't need to look at the data, but the data that's being collected in the reports specified by this bill will not offer any additional insight into that, because there's no income data related to it. We're simply asking for the provider to let us know how many customers have decided to opt for a battery backup, and there's no way to triangulate that with the income of the customer to see if they will opt in, if they have a certain income threshold, or if they did not opt in because they have a power wall or a generator, or because they think their sump pump is more than their phone service during an outage. So the stuff we are currently doing I think that takes me through the bulk of the bills, 6 pages.
Thanks, Rep. Civilian.
So are you ready for questions or did you want to?
I got a little bit more.
I can make that.
So what we're currently doing, so the announcement that we got from Fidium on the last, or the FCC petition that we got from Fidium from the last discontinuous notice, created an announcement that goes on our webpage that bubbles up to the State of Vermont homepage. Includes a link directly to our website with our new page about the copper to fiber transitions. That page on the department site includes link to the FCC sites, links to the provider's petition, sections about power outage and battery backup, a section on medical and auxiliary telecommunication devices, and a section on how to prepare for the transition, as well as direct contact information for the department, CAPI division, and a direct link to the CAPI division complaint reporting form. We did outreach to organizations who offer assistance to vulnerable populations. We talked to the chair of the BTRS. We talked about them a little yesterday. Who reached out to Dale, the Department of Aging and Independent Living, and they have not yet provided any specific navigator programs to assist with the copper to fiber transition, but it has been added as a discussion point to the next BTRS meeting for all of the people to come together to see how that would work. And then we do direct advocacy on approach. I don't know if any of you were copied. The person we helped last fall copied, well, just Sanders, Becca Ballot. Everybody in the state, it seems, was copied on some of these emails. But we spent a fair amount of time with a person in Morrisville who was transitioned to ensure that his fax machine worked for his work. He was a counselor and sent a lot of faxes back and forth and he did a signature. And to extract the voicemail messages from the old copper-based voicemail system to put on a CD to give to him because he got choked up. They were the last recordings he had of his deceased wife. So that's a level of advocacy and involvement we are happy to get involved with to ensure this stuff happens. So for the department's position, the MOU has been drafted and sent to Fidium. It's not finalized, but the process has started and continues to move forward. It includes notification at 120 days, so we can get that announcement I just spoke of, created, posted to our website, have it bubble up to the State of Vermont website. And then again, at 30 days, Sarah mentioned that she went through the notification process for a customer who didn't actually call to make the switch and their service wound up going into a suspended state. They called the next day. So when we looked at the 30 days versus 14 days for the next notification, the actual percent change in people who called between those two was minor. So 30 days. This will allow us to prepare for the calls, which will be generated by the population of people that will schedule this call, who call us to say, hey, my phone's not working, my service is suspended. It also includes requirements on the 2 additional separate communications at the time of install. One outlining the need for a battery backup before service to maintain service in a power outage, and one on the need to let the installer know of any auxiliary devices that need to that the customer has that they need to ensure work on the new system. In general, we want to see this change, the switch from copper to fiber. This is a technology transition that needs to happen. We're trying to resolve this with the MOU with Fidium, and we would happily come back and provide an update next year on how it's.
Rep. Civilian.
So thank you for this, Director Thompson. The problem that I think we're trying to solve is making sure we understand essentially who can call 911 and when, and who might have problems calling 911. I mean, if we really boil it down, would you agree?
Public safety issue, yeah.
So, a couple of questions I had. There was helpful feedback. Do you know how many service quality investigations there have been in the state with this company and its predecessors?
Off the top of my head, so
I
have a feeling it's large.
I could not give the number myself, but there are multiple. And having engaged with the department and this company over time, and having been genesis of one of those service quality investigations when it was suggested my consumer should move to make sure they could be in touch with public safety. I'm a bit skeptical about the durability and efficacy of an MOU. I certainly appreciate and like all of the things that I've heard you talking about being included in that. They seem appropriate. And so I think it is important to put something more in statute. It seems like that will have more teeth. So are you able to provide us any suggestions in terms of like edits, like actual words? Are you able to work with our attorney to
I think we can probably do that, yeah.
I had a similar question. Like I said, we wade in when it feels like some part of the process isn't working for folks. And so I was going to ask you similarly, if we feel that waiting for an MOU is too sort of temporary, or not the way we want to go, and we do want to set something in statute, it would be great to get really direct feedback from you guys in your important role as ratepayer advocates, which we rely on you for that, about what parts of the bill don't work, are redundant, aren't going to be helpful, is a waste of everybody's time, and what parts of the bill really could effectively and strategically advance consumer protections around the transition from copper to fiber. That's really what I'm interested in. And, I don't want to bog things down with an overly complicated bill that doesn't work and doesn't help.
Madam Chair?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I would just, I'm not sure that I understand why the MOU that is being worked out, which, sounds great, why we can't incorporate that into the language that we've got here. I do have one other question, and I would, if you want to answer that, but I do have one other question.
I was just say I'll work with PA. My notes are notes saying they'll be the ones that can require me to say
I definitely would be interested in hearing from the department. It doesn't about why we have some providers filing with the FCC and some that are not. I just want to understand the technical difference there. So Franklin is small and extremely in touch with their consumers. But I'd like to make sure I understand what the difference is there, Madam Chair. If we could just get some response from that, if that's email or something.
Email's fine.
Okay. That's definitely a question for the lawyers
Okay.
to go through the FCC statute and just to see what the reasoning is there.
Rep. Howland?
I wanted to argue about the system average duration index that you quoted as 7 hours in a distribution system for system average for Green Mountain Power. There are customers that are out for 7 days, and so a 24-hour backup. There ought to be a method that the customer could be informed that he needs a larger capacity battery. And I don't know if they're sophisticated enough to equal amp loads to amp hours that they need service. But I mean, the battery backup that is around every computer in the State House here might be a little bit larger than the battery that's going to be provided to the. I just wanted to flag that up.
Yep. Yeah. So that number came from a report from the Director of Engineering. It's a CAIDI, which is some of all the outages over the total of all the number of customers. And it is just that it is an outage. It doesn't take in the outliers. I've got friends in East Montpelier, Washington Electric, and to the ice storms a couple of years ago, I think they were out like 4 days. So there's definitely some outliers there that have much longer outages, but in terms of averages, that's what the numbers.
So if you're in a, if you're in a large village, you seldom see an outage. It's kind of proportional to the miles of exposure you have of your distribution.
All right. Great. So we will, I think we'll just put this on ice and wait to hear back from you. I think that's our next step. So, I think we can just wait to hear back from you folks and then decide what we're doing next. Great. And we had some information coming from, Sarah as well. So I think we're now in waiting to hear mode. Great.
Thank you.
And Hunter, what would be your timeline on that?
I will talk to Laura as soon as I walk past the podcast, but I would expect probably next week.
Next week.
It's midday Wednesdays.
Great. And you'll submit your written testimony that you have already.
This is notes and chicken scratch. So
Okay. All right. Great.